Hello, my fellow marketers. It's Will Smith again, continuing my review of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Today we'll go over chapter 3, entitled Faith, Visualizing and Believing in the Attainment of Desire. And it is the second step to riches. So what is faith? Napoleon Hill defines faith as the head chemist of the mind. He also notes that when faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. So how does one develop faith? The author tells us that faith is a state of mind that may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion. Making repeated affirmations to your subconscious mind is the only known method of developing the emotion of faith voluntarily. So let's take a look at how emotions play a role in faith. Emotions are a key factor with faith. When our thoughts have been emotionalized or given feeling, and they're mixed with faith, they immediately begin to translate themselves into their physical equivalent or counterpart. The emotional portion of our thoughts is the part that gives our thoughts vitality, life, and action. This can be a negative and destructive, or positive and constructive. The subconscious mind doesn't care which. It will simply give back to you what you give it. So the chapter goes on to give practical examples of how faith works in both negative and positive ways, and ends with a story. The chapter ends with a story of Charles M. Schwab, who was working for Andrew Carnegie in the steel business. Charles M. Schwab went to the University Club in New York City on December 12th of 1900, and he made a speech there. One of the people attending was J.P. Morgan, and he was impressed with the speech that Charles M. Schwab made. It had to do with his vision of where the steel industry was going, or actually his vision of where the steel industry was going. And the two of them got together and they spoke about his vision after the speech. And it turned into a business deal. After Charles M. Schwab and Mr. Morgan spoke, Mr. Schwab went back to Andrew Carnegie and gave him a figure, gave him an offer for select companies under his umbrella. Gave him an offer of $400 million to sell to J.P. Morgan. Turns out, to make a long story short, that the offer was accepted, and that ragtag group of companies became U.S. Steel, and shortly after those companies were under the U.S. Steel umbrella, they were worth $1 billion. So J.P. Morgan made a $600 million profit, all due to the efforts and the faith that Charles M. Schwab had in his idea, his vision of the steel industry and what it held for the future. So that's a great example of how faith in an idea, faith in a process really turned out for the best. So that concludes my review of Chapter 3. On my next post, I'll review Chapter 4, Autosuggestion, the medium for influencing the subconscious mind, and the third step to riches. Until then, have a happy day and a prosperous life. Take care.